Hello and welcome. This is a small video I'm making on elementary logic only for two questions. What is premise and what is inductive inference? I'm just going to cover these two questions. These are for my assignment test for the semester 1. So let's begin with what is premise in logic. In logic, a premise is a statement or a proposition. So the keyword is premise is a statement or a proposition that provides support or evidence for a conclusion. So premise is a statement or proposition that supports or provides evidence for a conclusion. Premises are the foundational assumptions. So they are foundational statements, they are foundational propositions or assertions in an argument from which a conclusion is drawn. So a conclusion is drawn from premises. Premises are nothing but statements or propositions, and they support or give or provide evidence for a conclusion. An argument typically consists of one or more premises and a conclusion. So argument consists of one or more premises and a conclusion also, with the premises intended to convince the listener or reader of the validity of the conclusion. With the premises intended to convince the listener or reader of the validity of the conclusion. So how do you get the validity of a conclusion? Is by its premises. For example, so we'll now give an example. All humans are mortal. Premise 2 is Socrates is a human. Conclusion, Socrates is mortal. This is a very common example that is given in our elementary logic book. In this example, the two premises, premise 1 and 2, they support the conclusion, demonstrating how premises work within logical reasoning. Now, key points about the premises are support. Premises serve as evidence or reasons for the conclusion. So premises are acting as reasons or evidence for the conclusion. So the conclusions are drawn from the premises. Assumed true. Premises are normally assumed as true because otherwise you will not be able to come to a conclusion. So premises are often assumed to be true in the context of the argument, even though they may later be questioned or proven false. Logical structure. A valid argument. Now what is a valid argument? Ensures that if the premises are true, the conclusion logically follows. Although an argument can be valid without the premises being true. Premises play a crucial role in logical reasoning and critical thinking, and they are the building blocks that help construct a sound argument. Let's go on to the next question. What is inductive inference? Inductive inference is a type of reasoning that involves drawing generalized conclusion from specific observations or evidence. So what is inductive inference? Inductive inference moves from specific observation to general conclusions, or we can say it in another words that in inductive inference moves, or the general conclusions are drawn from specific observations or evidences, or specific observations or evidences, that is, inductive inference moves from specific observation or evidence to general conclusions. Unlike deductive reasoning, which starts with general principles and moves to specific conclusions, where the truth of the premises guarantees the truth of the conclusion, inductive reasoning involves making conclusions that are probable but not certain. In inductive inference, we observe patterns, trends, irregularities, instances, in specific instances and then infer that these patterns hold more generally. The conclusions derived from inductive reasoning are probabilistic, meaning they could be true but are not guaranteed. Key characteristics of inductive inference. Inductive reasoning often involves generalizing from a set of observations to broader conclusions. For example, after observing many white swans, you might conclude that all swans are white, though this could later be disproven with a single counterexample, such as a black swan. Probabilistic conclusion. The conclusion reached through inductive inference is likely to be true, but it is not certain. For example, if every observed swan is white, it is probable that the next swan you see will also be white, but this is not certain. Patterns and regularities. Inductive reasoning relies on detecting patterns, regularities, or correlation in specific instances, and then using these patterns to infer something about the general case. Let's take an example. Observation 1. The sun has risen in the east every day I have seen. Observation 2. The sun has risen in the east every day throughout history, according to the records. Conclusion. Therefore, the sun will rise in the east tomorrow. While inductive reasoning doesn't guarantee that the conclusion will always be true, it provides a strong basis for predicting future events or forming general principles based on observed evidence. Inductive versus deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning makes broad generalization based on specific observations. Conclusions are probable but not guaranteed, whereas in deductive reasoning, it starts with general premises and derives a specific conclusion. If the premises are true, the conclusion must also be true. In summary, inductive inference is about making informed predictions or forming generalizations based on observed data or patterns, acknowledging that the conclusions are not absolutely certain but are highly likely. This ends the video. Thank you very much for listening.